fear the Lord. When you have the ability to love each other, to forgive each other mutually, as though the Lord has forgiven us, has given us himself up for us. We must give ourselves up for them. You know, it's a great gift from God. Be he rich or poor, his heart is content, and a smile is ever on his face. See, the action behind our fulfillment of joy and happiness, kindness, love, is a smile on our face. This isn't a fake smile. This is a smile full of laughter and joy. Laughter and joy. There are three things at which my heart quakes. A fourth which I quail. Though false charges in public trial before all people and lying testimony are harder to bear than death. Jesus had to bear all those things. Those are harder to bear than death. Jesus, in praying to God, sweat so bad that he sweat like drops of blood. In great distress over the things that he knew was going to happen to him. In love that's not self-seeking. We find that in Jesus Christ, God says, this is, I love Jesus with all my heart, might, and soul, yet I gave him away knowing he was going to be broken. I had to let him go because I knew that in my word of my steadfast love, he would return. He would return. But in love, you have to have the ability to let go of that which you love. And if it truly loves you, it will return. How do we test our deeds? How do we test our actions? By letting go. And if it really loves you, it will come back and love you. Jesus Christ says, if you really love me, then you will come back and obey my word. You will love me. You will love me. Where does the Spirit of Jesus Christ that rose him back to life, where does it live? Where is it that I may love him? He lives in you. He lives in us, the people of this world. And so, how do we love an unseen God in a physical world? Simply obey my words. Love yourself. Love your neighbor as you would yourself. Nothing worse than to be lied to. To be betrayed. Being lied to is like being betrayed. Can really hurt you deep. A jealous wife is a headache and mourning. A scourging tongue like the other three. A bad wife is a chastening yoke. He who marries her seizes a scorpion. Like a drunken wife arouses great anger, for she does not hide her shame. By her eyelids and her haughty stare, an unchaste wife can be recognized. But by her words, by her tongue. Yeah, I believe in Jesus Christ with all my heart, might, and soul. I go to church every Sunday, but Monday through Friday, Saturday, I have no problem cussing out my children. I have no problem screaming out from the top of my lungs, hate and anger. I have no problem rejecting Jesus Christ in you and choosing by my own standards who deserves Christ's love and who doesn't. All week long, I can walk around in the blaspheming of God's image. but then go home and not have the ability to love your husband or your wife or your children. It says, keep a strict watch over an unruly wife, lest finding an opportunity she makes use of it. Follow close if her eyes are bold. When she gets big eyes, and be aware. These are some of the results of marrying in or trying to love a wife that has been wounded. How does a woman become full of bitterness and scorn? But by being violated, by being broken by men. And it's usually men who are put in a place to care for you, to comfort you. Husbands, fathers, aunts, uncles, people of authority figure come to hurt you, violate you, abuse you. They become full of scars, wounds deep in their heart, lose their ability to trust another man. Those are the results of the devil and the effects of the abuse that comes from the devil. What if you were the unruly wife with a loud tongue? Could we change? You want your husband, you want to be loved by your husband as though you were the bride of Christ. Could you change? Because it comes to us, the individual. If our husband, if you want your wife to love you as though you were Christ, should you change? If we walk like him, if we walk in the way of love, they're going to know who we are. Follow close if her eyes are bold, and be not surprised if she betrays you. This is the warning. She'll probably betray you. What does Jesus say? Go and hate her and divorce her? No, he says forgive. This is what I want you to do. I want you to love her as I loved you. This is the warning behind loving a broken vessel. It ain't easy. Do you think it was easy for Jesus to walk to the top of Calvary? This is how easy it is to love a broken vessel. A lost nation. It's kind of like, a beat down of your life. But in that beat down of your life, I want you to obey me, and I want you to love them as you would yourself. As a thirsty traveler with an eager mouth drinks from any water that he finds, so she settles down before every tent peg and opens her quiver for every arrow. A woman full of bitterness and anger and violation is going to protect herself with fiery darts. She's going to protect herself. And what does God want to give us? Understanding. I want to give you the ability to have compassion on this person who's protecting themselves with an arrow, fiery darts, with the tongue of a scorpion. A gracious wife delights her husband. Her thoughtfulness puts flesh on his bones. A gift from the Lord is her governed speech, and her firm virtue is of surpassing worth. Choicest of blessings is a modest wife. And he's trying to set us up to have the fulfillment of God's word come to completion in our life. And how is that? To have the ability to love ourselves, to recognize ourselves as being God's children. It says choicest of blessings is a modest wife. A wife who doesn't need an unsupplied amount of blessings, of gifts. Doesn't need great clothing and jewelry. One that can live comfortably in her skin. And not just any skin, but the skin God gave her. That's a good wife. Priceless, her chaste person. Like the sun rising in the Lord's heavens. The beauty of a virtuous wife is the radiance of her home. If our wife is bitter, that's what she's going to radiate. Bitterness. And we're going to come home and that's what we're going to receive is bitterness. If our wife is happy, full of joy, we're going to come home and happiness and joy is going to be our reception. What creates a wife's happiness? Her stability in the trust she can put into her husband. It takes time to gain trust. It takes time. There's just no greater gift to give somebody than your time. Jesus says, I'll come to your house because your time is more valuable than anything I could think of. And I want to spend time with you. It takes time. It's called patience. It takes patience. Like the light which shines above the holy lampstand are her beauty of face and graceful figure. Golden columns on silver bases are her sharply limbs and steady feet. These two bring grief to my heart. A third arouses my horror. A wealthy man reduced to want? Illustrious men held in contempt? And the man who passes from justice to sin, for whom the Lord makes ready the sword. A merchant can hardly remain upright, nor a shopkeeper free from sin. You know, we're always looking for the next buck, the next dollar, the next blessing. And the greatest blessing of all is the presence of God. Presence of a good wife. It says here in the little commentary of the Bible, I want to read this to you. Not every Bible has these commentary things, but there's really cool when you got this little commentary at the bottom that kind of brings scriptures to a little deeper meaning. And even here in the book of Sirach, it does have that. You know, the worst thing we can do is to break up a friendship. When breaking up a friendship, we are putting death, literally, to that friend. And so that's kind of a hard thing for us to accept. When we're being rejected by another person, that's like putting death to us. Women are full of love and compassion. You know, when we reject them and hurt them, we're putting death to a friendship, putting death to a piece of their life. He says in chapters 25 of the book of Sirach, let me back up a little. It says, there are 9 who come to mind as blessed, a 10th whom my tongue proclaims. The man who finds joy in his children, and he who lives to see his enemies' downfall. And remember, we love our enemies, so what would be the downfall of our enemies? They're turning from their ways and becoming our friends. There's no greater thing to create a friend. Happy is he who dwells with a sensible wife, and he who plows not like a donkey yoked with an ox. Right? Unequally yoked. Got a donkey on one side and an ox on the other, and it usually doesn't work. Happy is he who sins not with his tongue, and he who serves not his inferior. His inferior, the flesh is inferior to the spirit, who doesn't serve the weakness. Or serve our tongue. Sometimes our tongue can get us in trouble. Sometimes our tongue can say things we really don't even mean, but all of a sudden we're saying things out of bitterness, hate, and anger. Sometimes we're taking problems out on our wives and our children that aren't even their problems. They're problems that come from work. Happy is he who finds a friend, and he who speaks to attentive ears, to an ears that are willing to listen. A lot of people want to be heard. One of the most rejecting things about people is cutting them off, not allowing them to be heard. And then they feel rejected. And when they feel rejected, unheard, they get a little bit loud. And they get louder. And they get louder. And then they're screaming at the top of their lungs, will you hear me? Will you listen to me? And in our life, how great is a friend who not only speaks with us, spends time with us, but is attentive to what he hears. Listens to me. Listens to me. Sometimes that's all we need, is to be heard. He who finds wisdom is great indeed, but not greater than he who fears the Lord. Sure, we can have all this wisdom and great, but without love. God is love. Who can fear love? Fear not being loved. Fear being rejected. Because when we're rejected, that means that there's no love. When there's no love, there's no God. What should I fear? Fear God. I do fear God. I fear not being loved. God says, I love you. The world cannot love you because I love you. You cannot love the world because you love me. Fear of the Lord surpasses all else. Its processor is beyond compare. Worst of all this, man, are the wounds that are of the heart. Worst of all evils is that of woman. When a woman's got a broken heart, this is the worst of all evils. Not the woman with the broken heart, the one who broke the heart. The devil breaks hearts. Evil breaks heart. Sin breaks hearts. That's the worst of all. Worst of all sufferings is that from one's foes. Worst of all vengeance is that of one's enemies. No poison worse than that of a serpent. No venom greater than that of a woman. Like scorned woman, get out the way when you upset a woman, right? Wickedness changes a woman's looks. Wickedness. A wicked woman? No, we're not talking about a wicked woman. We're talking about the effects of wickedness. Changes a woman's appearance. Changes her. Do you think plastic surgery is okay? Because I don't. The wounds and the effects of wickedness have beaten down a woman so that she cannot live in her own skin or believe she's worthy to be God's child in just the way God formed her, in God's very womb. in the womb of the mother which he made. Rejecting myself as being worthy to be God's child. And change my looks so I can be somebody else. Some people want to be their dog. I would love to come back as a dog. You get to sit on the couch all day and clean yourself, and everybody picks your turds up with their own hands. It's like unbelievable the stuff we do for our dogs. But love ourselves, love humanity, as though we would ourselves. That's a lot harder, especially when a dog don't have much free will. He loves you just because you feed him, and he can't survive without you. What if somebody could survive without you, could live without you, but free willingly chose to live with you? Ain't that like the good stuff? I have the free will not to be in your presence. But your presence is so attractive. I want to be in it. Broken woman makes her swollen as a female bear. She gets upset. And we as men come along and endowed maybe with the Spirit of God, and God says, hey, I would really like you to love the she-bear. God, Jesus says, I want a wife, Lord. Okay, go get the she-bear. Go love people who can't love themselves and are not only going to not love themselves, but they're going to hate you, destroy you, and crush you. That's your wife.